as I look back and I'm going, I'm still failing here, I'm failing here. All the cause of those failures was not due to other people. It's not due to competitors. I'm the cause of these failures. And once I came to that conclusion, I said, well, how do I stop doing this?
The From Busy to Rich podcast helps financial advisors by providing strategies and insights that will not only change your life, but practice.
All right, welcome everybody to the From Busy to Rich podcast. And today I get to ask the questions again. I've got a really good friend of mine. We've known each other for about 2 decades now. And my hair is really gray. His has not changed color at all. So it's amazing how one of us has aged more than the other. But Warb is a great entrepreneur. He's got a lot. I can't wait for you guys to hear his story. It's so applicable to what all of you entrepreneurs out there have dealt with over time, day in, day out. So Warb, thank you, brother, for being on the show today.
Wes, good to see you. Just to let you know, you at least got to keep most of your hair. Mine is receding. So, either you get the gray or the less hair.
Yeah. I think I'm getting both, Warb. I think I am in the back. Mine's coming out the back. But man, I was so excited to get you on the show. I would love it, Warb, for our listeners, if you could give them just a kind of a high level view of what it is that you do day in, day out, the companies that you run, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, that's a loaded question. I would say it ranges from trying to understand what everyone's doing to move them all in one direction. We always try to row one direction. Well, we have multiple team members, and these are great team members. They all want what's best for the company, but they look at things a little differently, right? And it's not to say that their strategy or direction is not good, but we need to always be rowing the same direction. So it's always casting the vision, helping them see what the strategy is, and helping them make sure that we're directionally heading the same way. I would say that is primary what I do every day.
Yeah, tell us about your company, Warb. What does your company do?
Yeah. So Allen Corporation, we are an air quality company. Our objective is to help improve air quality for homes, businesses, essentially where people live or play.
So, you guys have a pretty massive operation, and it's more than just the United States. And you've got manufacturing in different spots, and a lot of different irons in the fire. Give us some background on a little bit of that coverage that you guys have.
We're primarily in the North America, and we'll be expanding into Canada, Mexico. But yes, broadly speaking, we have manufacturing partners in China and Asia. We also have some manufacturing partners as well. We're trying to broaden our supply chain. But overall, I would say it's mostly North America is where the main business is at, with supporting functions in Asia.
Now, there's some stories where, because I've lived with you through a lot of different seasons of your creation, and you had some stories before. So I'd like you to go back in time for me a little bit. Because I remember you started this thing like in your garage, right? On a dial-up internet service, and like what tell me what were you doing before you said, hey, let's start this thing, and like what was tell me about the genesis and kind of what you were doing before where you started to do this.
So as I was sharing, I was most of my initial career was with the Fortune 100, and around 1999 was when we started our first company. It was a window blinds company. We had just moved to Austin. We'd experienced I would call it some interesting headaches in trying to get our home set up for our window blinds, and we had like 30 blinds that we had to get. So we went through the process, and then we realized, gosh, this why wouldn't we do this on ourselves, right? So that's how we started our first company, and it was truly a mom and pop company. We we looked at, well, how do we set up a supplier base? How do we ensure that the sales marketing piece, the quotation piece. And so I was setting up all those systems. Linda was actually the salesperson because she would typically meet with really the females in terms because it's such a decoration type of event. And so that's how we started. We started a out of our house a window blinds company where we managed it, we installed it, we set it up, and that's how we got started, 1999. And then, it was just at the beginning of the dot-com boom around 2000. And I said, gosh, why wouldn't I move this company online? Now, I remember when we first started the business, it was just a little tiny business. We were, we didn't, we were just kind of doing a little bit of things, trying to figure out things. But, I think the first year we did like $250,000 in sales. Not bad for a little company, just starting out. And I'm going, wow. At first I said, wow, this is easy. I said, wow, I'm ready to do more. And of course, my hubris had me go, as I was sharing about 2000 when the dot-com boom was happening. I said, well, let's get a website then. Let's take this, beyond Austin, Texas.
Put a commercial on the Super Bowl, right? Back in those days.
That's right. Anyway, that hubris enabled us to get our first .com started. And I would say, now a lot of people probably don't recall the beginnings of the .com, right? Because, like we're so used to broadband now, but back then it was all phone lines. And I remember building our website, both Linda and I, we had 4 lines coming into the house, 2 dedicated phone lines for just internet, AOL, and 2 others, one for business and one for personal. And that's how we got started. And I remember trying to build a website on a dial-up. And but eventually we got it done, right? It took a lot of man hours to do. I learned a lot about.
You probably thought it was fast at the time. You had nothing to compare it to, right?
Well, I would just say we were so busy that while it was waiting to upload for something, we'd be working on something else, right? And I remember that, and again, this is just the early days of the .com, where I was looking at how do I improve my positioning, my search rankings, and I focused on a little company. I don't know if you heard of them. It was called Google. And at that time I said, this is an interesting little search engine company. Sure, why don't we focus on Google? Because at that time it was mostly Yahoo, I think Alta Vista, these other browser or these other search engines that are essentially no longer really in existence other than Yahoo. And so we focused on Google, and lo and behold, 6 months, 9 months later, we became number 1 position for that keyword. And, the rest just kind of became, like I would say it supercharged us into the online business. Now I kind of shortcut about a year and a half. I don't want to give the listeners kind of this, misnomer that, oh yeah, all you have to do is just start a .com and, boom, you're ready to go. It took us about a year and a half to really find our way. And I would say at the time, part of it is just your naivete, your ignorance around how business is done. And I would say we learned a lot during that period. God taught me a lot about me, like how He's designed me to work. And of course, I made a ton of mistakes. And of course, in making those mistakes, you learn from it. And over time, you iterate. And the faster you iterate, the quicker you learn. And the quicker you learn, the quicker you can implement new ideas, new opportunities. But yeah, I would say I'm an accidental entrepreneur. And after that first time, by the way, we almost went out of business because, with a young company, revenues weren't coming in as fast, but you're still spending a lot of time, energy, and money. and try to get this built. But I would say, I would say God saved us from ourselves. so, so we were able to eventually make that work, and we turned around the corner. And after that, I said, "Wow, now that was a lot of fun. I'm ready to do a few more." And so, therefore, I created. I think over time, like Allen Corporation is my sixth or fifth or sixth company. I've lost count, and yeah, I would say it's just been a really fun and fun ride, full of great learnings, and of course, full of ups and downs.
So when so I know you, I know Linda really well. Known you guys for a long time, and and I just I can't imagine Linda doing the sales for the company with her personality type on this. I can't see her loving that at all. Like, was that a she just didn't know what she didn't know? She was just like, hey, well, we need this job done. How was that?
As you know, Linda is a pretty incredible woman. When she sets her sights on doing something, it doesn't, I mean, get out of the way. Okay. And I think for her, she realizes that, you know what? I got to go sell in order to generate revenue for the business. And, that's what she did. And just to let you know, right? Linda did the sales, and I had to do some of the installations. And you know how handy I am.
Wow, I bet those suckers hung well.
It's like I said, it was truly a mom and pop company, right? And so I would do the installations, and I remember some of these installations, and I hope some of my old customers, this is back in 1999. I hope they're not listening.
They don't like you. I can tell you that right now. They're that.
Well, no, no, no. I think they didn't know. Okay, I remember they would be sitting there watching me, install this thing, and I'm nervous, right? Because I'm going. First of all, it's not something I know really well, but I did it because we had to, right? And I would say that's really the main message to the listeners. When you start something, when you start a company, you just gonna have to get your hands dirty. You're gonna have to just get in there, figure out what needs to be done. Yes, eventually, as we got more and more clients, we quickly hired some installers because we knew that that was going to be a bottleneck for the business, you know. But I learned enough to go, yeah, I need to bring someone in to help me with this because they're better at it than I am. Okay, and that's how we grew and built the business. And when we went online, yeah, I hired a web developer to develop the website. But along the way, I'm learning with them. I I I paid him to teach me HTML. I was working alongside of him because I wanted to understand what did it take to get an online business up and running, and eventually we did. Right. So my encouragement to people that are listening is like, don't be afraid to get your hands dirty. It's like you're going to learn all sorts of things, and I would say those are temporary. Like, let's say, for instance, you're not a person that is really handy. Well, guess what? Being an installer for window blinds is not going to be your long term career anyway. If you own the business, you learn enough to go, okay, I need to hire someone to do this for me that's far better at it than I am. But at least I understand what's necessary, and it's never look at it as it's a permanent thing. It's always temporary because you're constantly figuring out how to grow the business. There's going to be new skills. There's going to be new markets. There's going to be new opportunities that you're going to have to figure out and learn. And that's what you as an entrepreneur do. You learn along the way so that you're positioned for bigger, greater things.
Yeah. So a couple questions I have for you around this because um, I've observed you over the years, and one of the things you invest in, and I'm a big fan of as well, is in yourself, in developing your thinking, in developing the way you lead, the way you think about things, the way you see the world. Was that always something in you, or is that something that you figured I need to do this, or this thing's going to be stuck?
I would say it wasn't always that way in the beginning of my career because I remember the word hubris I used earlier, right? You start the business or just in your career going, hey, I did my 4 years in college. I even got a master's degree, MBA. I'm like, well, what else do I need to know? Right. And then that's really hubris because to me, you're just in the beginning stage. You don't even know what you don't know yet. And what I would say is I come to as I was starting the first company, I realized there's a whole lot of stuff that was not taught in my MBA class, right? Things like leadership, things like management, things like creating a vision, creating a path toward a future possibility, working with people, trying to cast that vision, helping people to get on the same page. These are all skills that really is not taught in MBA school or in college. These are things you have to learn along the way as as you move further and further up. And what I would say is I came to the conclusion that I did not know enough to grow the business beyond really this mom and pop level. When you have just yourself and another person, let's say your wife running the business, you don't really need to learn leadership and management lessons because you're leading yourself, you're managing yourself. Until you start adding more people, you recognize that, it's no longer just them figuring out how to do it. You got to help them figure it out, right? And so yeah, I came to a conclusion very early that as we started trying to expand, we didn't know enough about really how to run and manage and lead a business. And that's when I did more, I would just say, education around how to do that better.
Hey, thanks for tuning in to From Busy to Rich. If you're listening and something sparks a question or you just want to explore these ideas further, visit us at wesyounglive.com or email us at info@wesyounglive.com. You'll find free resources, tools, and ways to get in touch. We'd love to hear from you.
And you have too met a lot of people, and they're very educated. They've got the MBA, they have those things, but they're very high IQ and low wisdom. And I think what you're speaking to there is that wisdom piece is like you had a high IQ, you went to school, and they teach you that when you come out, you're gonna, hey, well, you have everything you need to know, and you quickly found out you have very little that you needed to know. And so have you? I mean, you apparently quickly got out of that mindset that okay, this MBA is not mean that I'm endowed with talents. It's not the matrix, right? It's not, you can't just upload into me wisdom. I have to get that. And so I need to go figure out where are people that have done them well and actually not just teach a class about it, but have actually got a pedigree behind them that they've made stuff work. Because you and I were both in the business professionals course. I remember that. And these were people that were teaching, but they're people that were teaching that were doing it. And I think there's a big difference. And one of the things I want to highlight for all the listeners is, look, you do need a coach. You do need classes. You do need you can get coached through books you read. Some of my best coaches, people no longer alive. They've written books, and I found them and I read them. And then I've got actual coaches that observe you, and that's tough. Watching them observe you, and then you got to be willing to get feedback on that observation, and then you have to actually apply it. If you're not coachable, if you just let them observe you and then get feedback on the observation, and then nothing changes, right? And one thing about you, at least when I met you, you were past that point. I think we met, Warb, and I think I was looking today. I think it was 2005, and we met in a class in a Christian business CEO group, and you had the hubris beat out of you by that point. I can tell you that much because you were very open to new ideas. You were like, "Can we go to lunch? I'd love to learn more about what you're doing that's working because I'd like my stuff to work better." Was there a moment in time, or was it like crockpot, like where you said, "Oh man, this is like I am not very wise. I need wisdom." What was something happened or?
Yeah. This is great, Wes. You're bringing up really good memories for me.
We're gonna use some other stuff too, I promise.
By the way, you're a pretty incredible implementer yourself. Okay, so I think that for me, I think it was around 2005. I, so yes, I came to the conclusions that I need to learn more, right? And it's not just learning; it's applying, as you said, because just because you learn, like, learning is like reading a book. And great, you read 10 books, but if you never applied any of it, well, it didn't really matter, other than it resides in your head. Okay. What I would say is I came to the conclusion along the way that yes, I'm implementing, I'm learning, I'm trying to figure it out. But I came to the conclusion for me that, as I look back and I'm going, I'm still failing here, I'm failing here, and so forth. I came to the conclusion that all the causes of those failures was not due to other people. It's not due to competitors. It's not due to because, the marketplace, whatever it was. I came to the conclusion that, wow, I'm the cause of these failures. And once I came to that conclusion, I said, "Well, how do I stop doing this?" And it took some time to eventually face reality, which is I I essentially came to a conclusion that, man, you are the cause of these failures. And of course, my mind quickly went to, well, how do I avoid this in the future? And I started a process of just keeping myself accountable for all the things that I'm making promises to, for not just to me, not just to my team members, not just to Linda. I mean, I started on a journey to go, you know what? I'm not going to be the cause for this breakdown. I'm not going to be a cause for the consequences of missing some timeline, missing some due date, missing some action. And I just worked on really tightening that up for myself. And once I started disciplining my ability to do so, things began to work a little smoother. There were less breakdowns. There were less failures because I was essentially able to minimize all those, I would call it, it's all those missed commitments that, and you find yourself, just struggling to get that done because, it's like, oh, I was supposed to get this done. I didn't, um, balance my time enough. And so I would say that's my biggest learning. And that would be my biggest suggestion to a lot of the listeners is like, fix yourself first. You know what? There's a biblical verse about that. And then like, take care of the board in your eye before you take before you look into your brother's. And I would say, yeah, I focused on what I need to do first and make sure that I was operating at the level that I would say is at the level of excellence that I would declare before I forced my team members or told my team members how to operate there. This way, they said they could see that, oh, okay, you did what you said you're going to do and you did it consistently every time, right? And then it's like, oh, okay, the standard is this. Okay, they will work toward meeting that standard.
You have this massive company now. You got a place in the Caymans. Things are good. You have reinvented how you approach your work multiple times since I've seen you, and in the middle of that, I think I don't know if this is your like low moment here, but you tell me is you had cancer, right? And so can you talk about how that changes your perspective on things?
Yeah. And to me, this is like another God moment, right? God, I mean, you and I, we're both brothers in Christ. We recognize God's role in our lives, and I would say cancer was another wake up moment, less so around like um like so I was taking very good care of my health, right? It was I was working out 4 days a week. My diet was okay. It wasn't like,
Not when you were with me. Not when you were with me. It was those were your cheat days.
but to me, and so what surprised me was, wow, why did I why did I get cancer? And yeah, it was a huge slowdown for me. I had to basically stop running my business so I can go take care of my health. And I took time off almost 2 years, all right, to essentially eventually get well enough to get back into the business. And what I would say was it was a huge lesson for me in terms of patience, and compassion and empathy for people. Because until you go through that experience, I mean, first of all, the just around patience, right? Cancer is going to do what cancer does. There's nothing you're going to do to like speed up the recovery. You have to wait for your body to just basically fight this thing. Okay. And then as I was going through cancer, of course, I got to meet lots of other patients and nurses and doctors. And I got to tell you, when you experience cancer, you recognize that, wow, this is a tough disease. And that my heart for people grew because God was teaching me what it's like to go through a struggle that you have very little ability to control. And out of that came for me a level of patience for people, a level of compassion and empathy. And it is out of that that I mean, just these are like I'm a little choked up about it actually because I remember those times. But I out of that I came to the conclusion for me that wow, a lot of times when people are struggling, it's not because it's not because they did it to themselves. Sometimes life just happens, and so certain levels of compassion and empathy for people, especially that's really helped me in my leadership with my company because I'm a tough boss and I know I am because my executives tell me that and they said, "Wow, I remember a couple of my chief operating officers say, man, you're a tough grader." And I'm like, well, I don't mean to be a tough grader. I just have a higher standard because I expect the best, right? I expect the best out of myself. I expect excellence, which is a core value, out of my team members. Because why do anything if you're not going to do your best, right? And that's one of my notions about life. But also recognizing that everybody's best may not may not hit the standard. The compassion, the patience and the empathy comes in where it's like, okay, how do I help them improve? How do I help them get to the next stage? So yeah, it's a powerful lesson for leaders, I think. Once you really kind of begin to embrace the understanding what what compassion, empathy, and patience comes with, and I learned that through cancer, which is why I go, yeah, God used that method, God used that disease to teach me some valuable lessons that I can begin to employ now.
What's wonderful about that, Warb, is there's a lot of like I believe firmly in my heart that we suffer unnecessarily because of the stories we tell ourselves, and we excel in unordinary ways because of the stories that we tell ourselves. And one thing I can say has been consistent with you ever since I've known you, even in really tough times, through very very little liquidity, like how are we going to keep this going, to cancer, to like the ups and downs that happen when you manufacture overseas, tariffs come into play, right? There's all these things, and you, what I would say is you always are pretty cool and calm on the outside, but also you're very, very, hey, what do I have to learn about this? What did I do that may play a role in this? And you never deny the reality, but you do deny the finality of a situation. You say, okay, so what do I do now? What can I alone do that I alone control with the resources I have and the people around me to make this situation better? And I think that's your superpower. If I said, what is Warbley's superpower? It's you do not deny reality, but you absolutely deny finality, and you take responsibility. And you say, what can I alone do with what I have to work with to make things better? Um, where did that come from? Like, how did that get in you at that point?
Well, I'll start with this. Uh, when you said I say pretty calm and cool. Yeah, that's that duck on top of the water, and the feet are just moving like crazy underneath. Okay, because I'm a human, just like everybody on the and that's going to be listening to this. We're all human. We have emotions, we have concerns, we have fear, right? These all play into this, and what we as leaders have to figure out is not letting that overwhelm us. It's natural to have fear. It's natural to have concerns. It's natural to be, let's say, frustrated or annoyed, right? Or have levels of anxiety, right? But then after that, I mean, and it takes time to get that through your system, right? And what I would say is, in terms of defying the future, it's like once you accept, yep, this is the situation I'm in, right? That's the reality. Okay. Yes, these things are not working. Yes, we got big, huge problems coming. Like once you accept reality, because sometimes we try to fool ourselves. We try to say, "Oh no, no, that's not really the case." But you know what? Eventually, we all have to face the truth, right? The truth is never it's there, especially in this world we're in, where there's such a focus toward like a, oh, that's your truth, not my truth. Well, there's really only one truth. Okay, it's just how quickly are you willing to accept the truth? Okay, and it becomes so relative. And I go, well, I think you're just fooling yourself. And if you want to fool yourself, go right ahead, but you're the only person that's going to either benefit or feel the consequences of that belief system. Okay. So once you accept reality, which is, it may take time. Okay. But once you accept reality, you go to, and I continue to face this. And these are challenges that, I mean, just because you've ran a business for 20 years, 25 years, 30 years, and I feel very grateful and blessed to have a chance to start and run many, right? Um, you're always learning. It's never easy. You never get to a point where you're like, wow, I could just sit back and just watch all this come in. It's never like that. There's an ongoing thing that you got to keep doing to move the company forward. And what I would say is, once you accept the reality, you begin. This is one lesson I'm continuing to learn even now, which is, how do I embrace the challenges? Okay, because we as humans, we want to avoid challenges. We want to avoid pain and suffering, right? We just want to get away from it. And for some of the listeners on this call, they're also going, Lord, can you take this pain away from me? Please take this issue away from me. Please help me get out of this, right? And sometimes the best move is to be in that, because you're going to learn something. You're going to learn through these challenges. So what I'm working toward is, how do I embrace these challenges? How do I embrace these situations? And because it's not because I want to live a tough life. We all want to live an easier life, but I'm beginning to recognize that it's in these challenges, in these struggles, that God is trying to teach me something. And that the quicker I learn it, the quicker I can begin to move forward. And so to me, these are some of the things I've been really trying to coach my team, which is, everybody hates challenges. Everybody hates problems. But I'm like, you know what? If you can embrace it, if you can see it as an opportunity to go, yeah, it's something we can learn from, it's something we can develop new skills, new technology, new tools, new practices, whatever it is, new processes. It's like, we're going to learn so much more that the next challenge won't be as bad, right? And so that to me is the biggest thing. It's like, embrace the challenges, embrace the issues, like embrace like even the tariff thing, which was, we had 127% tariffs a year ago, I think, 2 years ago. Yeah, it sure is. I told the team, I said, why even ship a product? you know, Yeah. I'm like, what's the point of putting $100 bill on every product we ship out? Okay. And so there were tough times, but guess what, man? The team learned, and we developed some um, new opportunities to be able to weather that storm. Okay. And so I would say the challenges are what enables us to get better. So embrace it, see it as an opportunity to learn, see it as an opportunity to just kind of, put yourself in the middle, right? Back in the beginning of the business, put yourself in the middle, like learn.
Those are awesome things, brother. I so enjoy our time together, and man, just thank you for being a part of today.
Well, thank you for inviting me on. As you know, I don't do a lot of these, but it was enjoyable for me to, recount what has happened, right? It helps you almost just kind of go, wow, that there were some really fun things that we went through. And so thanks for kind of helping me share my story, because it encourages me as I listen to myself going, wow, that was actually some good learning experiences.
Something Justin says all the time on the podcast, who's, my partner, Special Forces Green Beret, when times are really hard, he just looks at me and goes, but nobody's shooting at us. Nobody's shooting at us. And you almost, when you retell the story, you kind of remind yourself of, well, that's not happening. So that's good. Things aren't as what they used to be. And man, it's so good. I mean, if you were to go back in time and be able to tell the younger version of yourself what would happen, what would be here today, which I don't think God allows that, because I think then we'd be like, oh, cool, everything's great, then we don't need to struggle or suffer. But suffering is a necessary component to and struggle, and you can suffer unnecessarily, but there is necessary suffering that you can actually, believe it or not, enjoy. I suffer at the gym. There's things like that. So man, awesome day. And guys, listen, I'm so excited for you to get the podcast in your hands. And brother, I'll just love you. We got to connect soon. And thanks for being on the show. Yeah.
Thanks for tuning in to From Busy to Rich. If something in today's episode sparked an idea or hit a nerve, don't keep it to yourself. Follow the show, share it with a friend, and let's keep building a community of advisors who want more. You can find more resources, tools, and free content at wesyounglive.com. We'll see you back here next time for more real conversations about building the life and business you really want.